Okay, hi students. Good afternoon. Just we are connecting. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So yesterday we have seen some videos of wine making. Today we are going to see about the world wine countries. Okay. Uh, the wines of the different countries and everything we are going to study. We are going to start from today. That is another huge topic, like production of wines, like types of wines. Same, we are going to see about the wines of the different countries and which are the countries have contributed for the wine industry. Everything we are going to study. So before we go into that big topic, just I want to show the one more video like I told you yesterday. So I want to show one more video that is very important video of champagne uh, process, how the champagne uh, been made. So we are going to see that. I want to show a small 15 minutes clips the champagne. That's very important, very useful video. You can see that one.
Winemaking in Champagne is an incredibly intricate and protected process, with the title of Method Champenoise being exclusive to the region. What many may not realise, though, is making champagne starts out the same as still white wine making. Like all winemaking, champagne starts out with harvesting, when the grapes have reached their optimal ripeness and balance between sugar and acidity levels. In Champagne, all producers must harvest their grapes by hand and will use small buckets so the grapes aren't crushed before
The
being
harvesting
pressed.
process for
The
champagne.
harvested bunches will then go through a rigorous sorting process to make sure that only the best berries are sent for production.
All the grapes are picked by hand, no
The
machine.
Pinot Noir and
So
Pinot
by hand you
Meunier.
can make selection. You take only
The
the
harvesting
good
Pinot
parts.
Noir,
This
Pinot
one is
Meunier.
a machine take everything. A machine will take bird nest, rotten grapes, snakes, snails, everything. By hand picking, you can check the good ones.
Once the grapes have been sorted, they will be ready for pressing. Grapes will be placed as whole
next
bunches
pressing
into a press,
happening.
which in Champagne is traditionally a coquard or basket press, though many producers now use a pneumatic press.
Pressing is important. It's a part of the Champagne method. That's why we don't like others saying they make méthode champenoise. They prefer méthode traditionnelle. But the way we extract grapes is important. We don't crush, we press. We want to make white wine out of black grapes. By pressing, you have automatic press. In a way, it's vertical. Like any press, you can do it mechanically, pneumatically, hydraulic. So now most of the press are automatic, so you control your pressure, but you have also the manual one, the traditional one. But when you squeeze a fruit, there is a moment nothing is flowing, so you have to shake the fruit, press another time. So on the traditional one, you level the press, you have people with forks turning the grapes, pressing another time. On automatic one, it's like if you make concrete. It turn, it press. Which one is the best? It's like driving a car. You have an automatic gearbox and manual gearbox. When it's on motorway, automatic or manual, you drive. On snow, it's different. So on snow, if you're a good driver and a manual gearbox, you can be very efficient. But if you're a bad driver and a manual gearbox on snow, you can go out of the track.
This pressing process is strictly protected under Champagne's appellation laws, with producers only allowed to extract 2,550 litres of juice from every 4,000 kilograms of grapes. The extracted juice is divided into the vin de cuvée, which is the first 2,050 litres pressed, and the vin de taille, which is the remaining 500 litres. The vin de cuvée is the premium juice and is reserved for a champagne house's best wines. The juice will then be transferred to stainless steel vats, or in some cases small oak barrels. This unfermented
must,
grape juice, known as must, will
the
settle with any
unfermented
sediment
grape juice.
resting at the bottom.
They're just
Once
calculating
settled,
the
the
yield
sediment is
content
removed
of
during what
must,
is known as
how much it is
débourbage.
there, and
While
yield is very
stored, the wine will
important
then
because
undergo alcoholic
it affects the
fermentation.
quality
This
of wine.
occurs either
So
naturally
before that,
or
they
through
will
the
check
addition of selected
the
yeasts
measure.
to
They're
the
measuring
vat.
the
Alcoholic fermentation is
the
the
must.
process
What
of
is
yeast
how much quantity of
consuming the
must
grape's
we are
natural
using for
sugars,
making wine.
which creates the
So
natural
the fermentation is
byproducts of
happening.
ethanol or
Uh,
alcohol,
we
carbon
are getting
dioxide,
ethyl
and
alcohol,
heat.
carbon dioxide, and heat. We
Some
know this
producers
process.
may then allow malolactic fermentation to
Then the
occur,
fermentation,
during which microorganisms naturally found in grape juice transform tart malic acid, found in green apples, into soft lactic acid,
we are
which is
getting
found in
malic
milk.
acid. We are getting
This
lactic
process
acid.
softens the wine and helps to give a round and creamy texture. Many producers in Champagne
This
prefer
acid
to
gives
prevent
creamy
the
texture
malolactic fermentation
to the
from
wine.
occurring as a stylistic
This
decision
both
to
acids,
maintain fresh and crisp acidity in
which
their
comes
wines.
from the grapes.
This can be controlled
After the
by
fermentation,
adding sulfur dioxide or
dioxide.
keeping the wine
We're
at a
adding
low
sulfur
temperature
dioxide.
where this
You all know why
fermentation
we are
cannot
adding
take
sulfur
place.
dioxide to kill the
Champagne
wild
is a
yeast,
wine that is
the
made from the Champagne
unconverted
region.
wild yeast.
Champagne, it's a region.
So also
it's like
to
Burgundy,
prevent
it's
the
like
wine from
Kent,
oxidase.
it's like Dorset, and
Because
Champagne
this wine will have full of
can only
carbon
be made
dioxide,
with
the wine
grapes
cannot
coming
be
from that region.
oxidized. So to
and it's a
prevent
small
the wine
proportion of
from the
global sparkling wine
oxidation,
today.
the
Champagne
sulfur
is a
dioxide
sparkling
will
wine.
be
It's
added
a wine,
into the wine.
in the case
Two
of the
reasons.
Champagne
One is
method,
to kill the wild
fermented
yeast.
twice.
The wild
The
yeast
first
means
fermentation
unconverted
is like
yeast
any
cells,
kind of wine
like
in
a
the world.
bloom.
Let's say any
Bloom
kind
is
of
a
white
natural
wine.
yeast. You have to
It's
kill the
on the
natural
gun,
yeast, otherwise
in
it spoils
barrels
the
or in tank,
entire wine.
and
So two
basically,
reasons they are adding
grape
the
juice
sulfur
becomes
dioxide.
wine under the influence of the addition of some yeasts. Juice, basically, grape juice becomes wine, still wine. That's it.
After alcoholic fermentation, the chef de cave or master blender of a champagne house will undergo the critical blending process called assemblage. Wines of different grape varieties, villages, and vineyards will all be blended together to create the desired wine, with non-vintage wines also having a variety of different vintages.
So Olivier, what do you do with all this wine after a year?
In January of next year, we will taste every single vat individually for choosing if we keep this wine for one more year of storage or we use it for the blend of the next bottling period. So every day we taste the vat, we keep notes, and we start making our blending, the recipe of the cuvée. We have different type of wine doing. This wine, we only go on non-vintage wine. So maybe we use a part of this vat, no wine, or full of the vat. It depends on the effect of this wine in the future blend. So maybe in spring, we put this wine in the big blend of good classic, or we can keep it one more year in storage.
Once blending is complete, the still wine will be bottled and a mixture of sugar and yeast called the liqueur de tirage will be added to each
wine,
bottle to induce a
will be
secondary
transferred
alcoholic
from the
fermentation
vat
in the
to
bottle.
The bottle.
Bottles are then
Then
sealed
we are
with a
adding the
crown
yeast
cap,
and sugar for
similar to
second
that found
fermentation.
on
We
beer
already
bottles
discussed
and are
this.
normally stored in a
Liqueur de
cellar or
tirage.
the traditional
Liqueur de
chalk tunnels
tirage
of
is
Champagne.
the mixture of
The added yeast
and
in the
sugar
wine will
will
consume
be
the sugar,
added
creating
into the
alcohol
bottle,
and carbon
not in the vat.
dioxide in the
The wine
As
already
the
been
wine is
transferred
sealed,
from
the
vat to
carbon
the bottle.
dioxide is unable to
We are
escape
adding the
and
yeast and
dissolves
sugar
into the
for
wine,
secondary fermentation.
causing it to become
Secondary
fizzy.
fermentation takes place in the bottle.
Once all of the sugar is consumed,
you're
the
seeing that
dead
one.
yeast will settle in the wine as what is known as the lees. Over time, these lees will impart bready and toasty characteristics to
So
the
the
champagne
lees
in a
is
process
coming out.
called
The lees is
autolysis.
there, sediment is there.
Most fine
So we have
champagnes
to
will spend
remove
at
the
least 2
lees
years on their
and
lees,
sediments.
with some vintage champagne spending up to 5 or 6 years.
Diego, here on the left and on the right, we have wines which are aging. So these bottles are undergoing the second fermentation. And they are basically, as you can see, they're stacked on pieces of wood, which we call lat. That enables the bottles
Can
to
you
be
see
stable and
how
not
the
be
wines
shaken
being
around.
kept
So these
in
wines
the
are
cellar?
aging, and they will be in their cellars for
All
another
of
3,
them,
4, 5
they are in the
years.
same stages of second fermentation.
Exactly. What we call aging. I mean, the second
Aging.
fermentation might be just finished, so these are the carbonic gas
they
is
are-
inside, but but the aging and the maturing and the division of the yeast in smaller pieces in order to generate a finer champagne and smaller bubbles.
After at least 15 months, the champagne will be slowly rotated upside
So
down
the-
during the riddling process
before
so that all of the dead
degorgement,
yeast cells
we have
accumulate
to
in the neck
bring
of the bottle.
the
I don't want
yeast
to get
and
too technical,
sediments
but
into
basically,
the neck
obviously,
of the bottle.
for example,
That
when
is
we
called
talk
the
about the
removage
remuage,
process.
the riddling of the bottle,
The
that used to be
removage
done
process we are
exclusively
bringing. You
by
can see
hands.
the wine
Basically
bottles
turning
kept
the bottle from the
slantingly
horizontal to
after
the
the
vertical
shake-ups.
position to
We have to
evacuate the
shake,
yeasts,
then
and
we have
that
to tilt,
essentially is done
then
by
it will be
machine.
kept
So basically, you
slantingly.
put the bottles
So this
in
is
a
what
pallet,
you are seeing in
metal
this
pallet,
video.
and the metal
So
pallet
very
is put on a
simple.
metal fork.
This is for the
and the fork
degorgement
turns
process. You know
like
what
1/4
is
or
degorgement? This
1/8
is the
every
process
day,
of removing
and then again
leaves
for
and
about 10, 20,
sediments
12 days,
which
and
is
then
present
eventually
in the
the fork
bottle.
puts the pallet in a horizontal position.
So we are,
The bottlenecks will
Yes.
be frozen.
you can see
And the
this.
bottle cap will be removed.
The neck of the bottle
Pressure from the
will be
carbon
soaked,
dioxide
will
will
be dipped
eject the remaining
inside the
yeast
brain
cells.
solution,
This is
which is
called
more than
disgorgement
minus 20 degrees
and was
centigrade.
also
Can you see
traditionally
this?
done by
The
hand.
degorgement,
However, it is
how the
usually now
cork,
done by a machine.
how the leaves
Finally,
and
sugar may
sediments
be
came
added
out,
to the champagne,
and
which is
immediately
known
it
as
will
the
be covered
dosage,
with
balancing the
cork.
wine's acidity. The cork is then added to the bottle, and the
You
champagne
see
will
this?
be left to settle
After the
for a few
degorgement,
months before
after
being ready
the
for sale.
leaves and sediments
This
came
process has
out
been tweaked and
forcefully
perfected over
from the
hundreds of
bottle
years. However, the
through
essence of
the
the method
atmospheric
champenoise
pressure.
is still the same.
Then immediately
So how's the process
the
changed
wine
over the
bottles
years?
will be
I
covered
would say
with
that
cork.
fundamentally the recipe
This is what
or what makes
we have
champagne
seen
become
just
champagne
now.
has not changed.
So you can
Once
easily
again,
understand
it's a wine
how
fermented
it
twice,
exactly
and
it
the
is
second
happening.
time is
How
done in
the
a bottle.
really the degorgement is happening. Degorgement is one of the most important process for champagne. So this is all about the champagne process video. A small video, just I wanted to show you. It's a quick video how the champagne from the grapes harvesting until the time how the champagne's been produced. So they highlighted only the few important particular process like fermentation, like secondary fermentation, very important. Then the removage process and the wine bottles kept in the cellar in a slanting way. That process. Then the most important process called degorgement. So then the wine bottles are being covered with cork, and then it is ready for selling. So this is the how the champagne is being made. So I just wanted to show this video because you can connect the study what we have studied, and then when you saw the video, then easily it was very easy for you to understand. So now we will go for the next topic, which already you guys know that. Let me open. Let me open the PPT. Okay. Let me open the presentation. Okay. Wines of France. How the France wines, how the France playing a major important role in making wines. So before we go into the study about the wines of France, I want to tell you about the wines of the countries or the world wine countries. So please understand very clearly, the wines will be divided into two. The world wine countries will be divided into two categories. One is old world wine countries, Another one is New World wine countries. I am repeating again. I am repeating again. One is old world wine countries. The another one is new world wine countries. When you talk about old world wine countries, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Portugal. So these are the countries comes under the old world wine countries. Rest all the countries comes under the new world wine countries. I am repeating again. France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Portugal. These five countries comes under the category of old world wine countries. While when you talk about new world wine countries, the rest of all the countries comes under the new world wine countries. But still, there are 195 or 198 countries in the world. Of course, apart from these five countries, all countries comes under the new world. But what are the very famous countries uh, which will be considered in new world wine countries? So definitely we are going to study about both old world wine countries and new world wine countries. In new world wine countries, for example, if we talk about Australia, America, Argentina, New Zealand, Chile, India, Hungary, these are the wines comes under the new world wine countries. These are the countries are better known countries for making a wine with a modern techniques, and you know, of course still there are many countries are making wine, but these are the top most countries who are playing a major role, who are into the making of wines and cultivating grapes and exporting wines. So these are the countries in the top of the ball when you talk about new world wine countries. So new world wine countries, you can say any countries apart from those five countries can be called as a new world wine countries. So that we will study later after we complete about this old world wine countries. When you come to old world wine countries, already told you five countries in the old world wine: France, Italy, Germany, Spanish, and Portugal. Among this, France and Italy always fight for the number one position. France and Italy, these two countries, when you talk about worldwide, these two countries globally, the best super countries when you talk about wines. You cannot write the history of wines without these two countries. So these two countries played major role, witnessed many times in the history of the wines. These countries have contributed a lot into the wines of the world. So when you write the history of wines, you cannot miss these very important countries. So we will study about Italy later, and today we will study about France. So wines of France. Uh, I have discussed in the classes so many times. The France, the country who are who is dominating both food and wine. Food also we are studying about French classical menu, the 17 course French classical menu we have studied, and we know how this French classical menu is very famous worldwide. It's not stays in only in the France. It's not restricted only in France. World knows what is French classical menu. The same when you talk about the wine, the world knows the importance of wines which comes from France. So France, one of the most dominating country, one of the dominator, the who stays the top of the game. in making wines and, of course, exporting wines from France to other countries. 50 to 60 million hectoliters wines being produced every year. I'm repeating, 50 to 60 million hectoliters wines being produced in the France every year. If you want to say in another way, 7 to 8 billion bottles, 7 to 8 billion bottles being produced in France per annum. So per annum, 7 to 8 billion bottles of wines being produced in France. So then you have to see how it is, how large, how huge it is. One of the largest wine producer in the world, along with Italy, Spanish, and America. But still, Italy, you can see Italy is a very competitive, wine producer. But still, France is one of the largest wine producer, along with Italy, Spanish, and America. Why the France is so famous? There is a term called terroir, Terroir. So in English it is called terroir, but in French it's a French term. It's called terroir. So, which means it's a set of environmental which helps the grapes to be grown in making of good quality wines. So I'm repeating again. The terroir in English, Terroir, it's terroir. Terroir is in French term. So it's a set of environmental factors that affect the crops and vines. Vine. Vine is the plant, the grape plant. So it includes soil, it includes climate, it includes the method of making process, it includes the growth of grapes, everything. So the terroir means the environmental aspect, the environmental factor for making good quality wine. France has the terroir within it. So that is the success behind the French wines. So everything, uh, you cannot talk about only the climates. You cannot talk about only the wine making process. You cannot talk about only the grapes. Everything altogether. That is called terroir or terroir. So the environmental factors all set good for making good quality wine, which we already studied about the factors affecting quality of wines, the classes. So same like, what are the factors? The soil, the climate, rainfall, sunlight, grape species, and growth of grapes, and ripeness of the plum, and the wine making process. This is called terroir or terroir. So the entire environmental factor is very important for making a good quality wine. France does it. They have it in a good way. When you talk about the history of France wines or French wines, they have started to produce wines from 6th century. So 6th century, it was the colonization of Greek people who were living in France, who were ruling in the France. When you talk about the colonization of Greek people who stayed in the 6th century, they were started to produce the wine. After that, after 1,000 years, for 1,000 years, the Mediterranean people who stays nearby the Mediterranean, so they were started to producing wines. in their own vines, they started to cultivate grapes, they started to viticulture, they started to plant grapes, vineyards, maintaining the vineyards. Everything was done by the Mediterranean people. Then the France is become the center of wine. It's become the hub of wines because the art of making wine. This is very, very important. The Greek people started wine in the France, then the Mediterranean people took over to planting the vineyards, cultivating the grapes, and harvesting and making wines out of it. Not commercially, maybe, but still they started making wines and everything. Then it became a hub of if you take a European Union, it became a hub of wines. The France became a hub, because art of how the method of making wines, it's become an art. Then the Greeks started settling in a good plantings, uh, plantations, vineyards, setting up the hills, setting up the steep sides, setting up the plantation of irrigation, everything. They started setting the vineyards. Then the Roman Empire came. The Roman Empire got license to maintain the vineyards, because it's a growth, step by step process, how the wine gradually grown in the France country. Then the Roman Empire came into the rule, and you all know that, and they have making a license, and they have the license of planting the vineyards and cultivating the grapes and everything. Then you talk about Middle Ages. When during after the Roman Empire, Middle Ages period, the monks who started maintaining the vineyards, the monasteries played a major role. They played a very huge role in maintaining the vineyards. So the entire vineyards comes in the controls of monasteries, because monasteries have resources. They had resources, they had a security, they had a lot of investments, huge. So what happened? And they have a lot of uh, you know uh, the inventiveness. They started inventing new idea, new techniques in wines, in making vineyards, in planting vineyards, in planting vines, and harvesting techniques, and making wine process. Everything, they invented many things in the France. Then you all know the French Revolution happened in 1789 to 1799. Then all the vineyards been confiscated. So during the French Revolution, all the vineyards which was governed and maintained by the monasteries, which all been confiscated, and then it's everything is collapsed. Then phylloxera of Asterix. We already studied about phylloxera of Asterix. It's one of the main pests which attacks which attacks the vineyard. So what happened? Phylloxera started spreading in the entire Europe. It affects a lot of vineyards. Many of the vineyards became desolated. So which nobody could use the vineyards. So almost all the vineyards became desolated, and everything was spoiled. Everything being destroyed. Later, again France being attacked by two world wars. France have you know have faced, have taken part, have played a major role in two world wars. So after these two world wars, the entire vineyards, everything being, you know, it was dead. There was no point of making wine. There was no evidence that the country produced a lot of vineyards. The country had a lot of plantations, a huge number of wines, huge vineyards. Everything was destroyed. There were no evidence. There were no evidence that the country have made such a kind of wines. So what happened after the World War? In 1935, the French government implemented, they established one regulation that is called AOC. We are going to study about these regulations. AOC, Appellation the Origin Controlling. So they have established this regulation in 1935, and this regulation started protecting all the vineyards. So all the winemakers started investing money in vineyards and making wines. So obviously the government has started taking more economical beneficiary benefit from these winemakers, and they give lot of protection of these vineyards and everything. This AOC made a huge revolution in France, particularly in wine industry. So the huge it was impacted very much. All the people started wine making, wine process, and they started a lot of wineries, and they started large investments. They invested a lot. They started investing a lot of money into this wine business after this AOC Act, the appellation, the origin controlling. Later, from 1970, later 1970, from 1970 onwards, the you know the wines in France became superb, superb, very famous, and it was became a good business, and France started dominating the entire world. It started competing with other countries, and it's standing tall till now. So from the 1970s, the wine business, the wine art of making wine, and the culture of making wine became very famous, and France is now one of, you can say, the king is the emperor in making of wines. Okay, so this is the brief history about the French wines. This is a small history about the French wines. Let us go into the PPT. We will see one by one. You can see this map, the wines of France. You can see, I can read Burgundy, Beaujolais, Bordeaux, Rhone Valley, and Languedoc, Roussillon, Southwest, Alsace, Champagne, Loire Valley. So, and these are the famous wine producing regions. We already studied and already we heard these names when we studied about the grape varieties. Yes, and we studied about these names. We heard these names when we studied about the grape varieties yeah, during in the class in the college. We have studied this. So you can see the names of the regions, sub-regions which producing wines. You can see these names. Okay, just as I told you, in July 30th, 1935, the numerous laws were passed to control the quality of French wine. So the French wine being protected by this, the lot of act which was being imposed, in 1935. So they made a government body. They made a board to control the wine making process. That is called INAO. I'm repeating again. They created a board which monitor, which supervise, and which give appellations, whatever, to to wines, to the to the wine manufacturers. So this board has started making a lot of rules and regulations and act and various appellations, and this board protected wine of France in many ways. So this is called INAO, Institut National de Appellations de Origine. I'm repeating again, Institut National de Appellations de Origine. So this mm, INAO board have taken entire control like a BCCI. If you talk about BCCI, it's a own individual board. Same like INAO, they were started giving, you know, approvals for the making of wine. Like AICT, if you talk AICT, AICT is giving affiliations to many universities and colleges. Same like INAO started giving, framing the regulations, appellations for producing wines in France. So these are the old categories of, you know uh, making of wine. If you getting any wine from France, you cannot make wine on your own. So you need to comes under any, appellation. The first one is European Union table wine category. I'm repeating again, European Union table wine category. The first wine is called Vian Table. VIN is Vian. Vian means wine. We already I have taught you. So Beyond the Table is, yeah, one appellation which producing wines in that category. Only 11.7% of the wines being produced by this category. What happened? This is, it's a very cheapest method that, you are allowed to make a wines bus. That's it. You can make a wines on your own, and you can keep your brand, and you can keep your whatever the grape varieties you want to use, you can use. So they will still they have a certain, norms for that, and it has to be produced from France. It has to be produced by, this method, something like that. Not much restrictions. Very simple way. So that is called beyond the table. When you talk about beyond the pay wines, you see 33.9% of wines being produced in France by beyond the pay. So beyond the pay means this is have some restrictions. You can use any grape. I'm repeating again, guys. This is very very important. Please pay attention here. You can use you can use any grapes. You can use any method. You can use any grape. You can use any method. You can use, whatever, um, uh, technology you want to use. You can use whatever technology, whatever process you want. But it has to be produced from France. It has to be produced, one of the way which was listed by the, board, the INAO. So you have to follow that one. So you might have seen the wines comes from France. Doesn't mention which part of the, France it comes from. It generally mention France, and they mention few grape varieties. You know, uh, if you're not seen, then I will show you when we back to classes. So these are the wines comes under Vyandi Pay. So it doesn't have any particular region where it comes from. It doesn't have particular. Yeah, of course they mention grape varieties, and they don't have any rules that you have to make only this grape variety. No, they can make from any grape varieties. It's up to the wine manufacturer decision. So the Vyandi Pay appellation have some restriction, but not very much. When you come to the second category, that is QWPSR. So QWPSR means quality wine produced in specific region. I'm repeating again. I'm repeating. Please, guys, ask me any doubts you have. These are the very important subjects, important topics what we are studying. Quality wine produced in specific region. It is called QWPSR. In this category, they have two appellations. One is AOC, appellation the origin controle. You can see 53.4% of the wines being produced by this appellation. What is AOC? I told you after 1935, because of the AOC, the wine making business, the wine industry became so famous, so successful, and it started giving a lot of profits to the wine manufacturers. Why? This AOC protected the wine industry. What does it mean? Appellation the origin control. When we talk about appellation the origin control, origin is this wine produced from which region of France. That you need to compulsory need to mention. You are making a wine, you want AOC appellation. You want appellation the control origin control means they have a lot of restrictions for this appellation, because when you talk about the world, the AOC wines are the best wines in the world. I'm repeating again, AOC wines are the best wines in the world. So if you are as a manufacturer, if you want to make a wine, if you want to produce a wine, and if you want AOC appellation, then you need to go under the restrictions. You need to follow the norms which was listed by the board. Very important. For example, the norms will be listed that this you have to mention where this wine comes from. Bordeaux or Beaujolais, or it comes from Burgundy, it comes from Languedoc, it comes from Cote d'Imo, where it comes from. So you need to mention the origin. If you are mentioning origin, then you need to use the principal grape variety of origin. I am repeating again, guys, please understand. In AOC, you have to mention the origin where the wine is being produced, which part of the France. If you are using the particular, for example, if you are using a Bordeaux, then Bordeaux means you need to use the principal grape variety of Bordeaux. You cannot use as per your own. And that grapes have to be grown in the restricted, in the norms, according to the norms. They will come and check the quality of the grapes, the ripeness of the grapes, and they will check what are the fertilizer you are using, what are the um, what are the harvesting process you are using, and what is the process of making wine, what are the process you are using, are you using the AOC norms, are you following the AOC norms, everything will be cross checked. If the board is satisfied, yes, this wine followed all the norms and regulations of AOC, then you will get the AOC appellation. If you get the AOC appellation, your wine value is different. It is very expensive wines than Vyandi Pay wines. We talk about Vyandi Pay wines. It is different from uh, AOC wine, because AOC is the superior quality wines, higher quality. And the fourth one is VDQS. VDQS no more now. It's abolished. There is no more VDQS wines, and no wines being produced in this category. So basically, these are the old categories which formed by French government according to 1935 Act. So one is EU European table wine category. There are two appellation comes under European Union table wine category. One is Vyandi table, another one is Vyandi pay. The second one is QWPSR category, that is quality wine produced in specific region category. Two categories, two appellations comes under that category. One is AOC, which is very famous, very superior quality, and another one is VDQS. VDQS no more now. So these are the new European Union wine categories. This is the new one. This is called PDO, Protected Designation of Origin. So according to this protected designation of origin, when your wine wants to come into this protected uh, designation of origin, PDO labeling term, then you need to follow their norms and regulations. France, appellation the origin control that we have studied now, AOC. AOC from France. Italy, you can see DOC, denomination the origin control at all. Same, exactly same norms and regulations as AOC. The name is changed is a DOC. They have a second one is DOCG, denomination the origin controllata e Garnita. It's a French, it's a Italian term. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing wrongly. So basically, PDO is very famous. You can see that down. PDO, protected designation of origin. This PDO is a very famous, appellation where the wine's been produced in a good quality way. Same, we have seen the old categories, right? The same like a QWPSR. That's they changed the name, and it's a modern European, the new European wine categories. So France already we know is appellation the origin controlling that AOC, and Italy they have a two regulations. One is DOC, another one is DOCG. When you talk about Spain, Spain they have a two. One is DO. DO already, I think Sherry is comes under the DO. The city of Jerez comes under the DO origin, so DO category. The second one is DOCA. If you talk about Germany, Germany they have two. One is predicate swine and qualitar swine. So these are the new European wine categories. Okay, so these categories are the superior quality wines. These are the first quality. When you talk about France, AOC is the first quality. When you talk about Italy, DOC is the first. Second one is DOCG. When you talk about Spain, DO is the first. Then DOC is second. When you talk about Germany, predict, predicate swine is the first, and qualitar swine second. So these are the most important PDO, protected designation of origin, means they will mention the name of the origin where the wine's been produced. Then the manufacturer have to use the principal grape variety of the origin. Then he has to follow all the norms and regulations which governed by these appellations. The another category is PGI labeling, protected geographical indication. Protected geographical means they will not go particular about the origin. Generally, I told you Viandipe is the you have to make wine in France, but you can make any part of the region, any part of the origin. You don't need to mention that this is comes from this place. You don't need to mention. So that is called Viandipe. Italy IGT, and Spain BDIT, and Germany land wine. So you need to understand PDO and PGI. This is the old categories. This is the old category. Only they change the names and they are following with the new categories. PDO is the highest superior level of making wines. If you are making a wine, if you are a wine manufacturer, if you are making a wine in Italy, if you are getting DOC wine, that is the superior wine. Then DOCG again, that is superior wine. Same in Spain, DO and DOCA. In Germany, predicate wine and qualitas wine, very superior wines. France, AOC, very superior wines. The another categories like PGI, protected geographical indication. Geographical indication means you will get indication that the wine comes from this geographical location, this country. Yes, they will not mention the wine comes from Bordeaux or Burgundy, nothing. Even they mention it, it is not that they have to follow all the norms and regulations of AOC. So you need to understand the difference between PDO and PGI. PDO is protected PDO is protected designation of origin, and PGI is protected geographical indication. So France VDP wines comes under the PGI, and Italy IGT wines comes under the PGI, and Spain VDIT wines comes under the PGI, and Germany land wine. So these are the European Union wine categories. Guys, if you have any doubts, you please ask me. Okay, so I'll clarify all your doubts. Now, moving to the next, wine producing regions of France. We are going to study about wine producing regions. You can see here Burgundy, Bordeaux, Northern Rhone, Southern Rhone, Loire Valley, Alsace, Champagne. So these are the major wine producing regions. These are the major wine producing regions of France. Okay, so wine producing regions: Bordeaux, Burgundy otherwise called as Bourgogne, and Champagne, Alsace, Rhone Valley, Loire Valley, Côte de Provence, Juracan, Sauvé, Languedoc, Roussillon, Gayloc, Armagnac. So these are the wine producing regions. I think 13 wine producing regions are there. But among all this, these first six, these first six are the major wine producing region: Bordeaux, Burgundy, Champagne, Alsace, Rhone Valley, and Loire Valley. So these are the major wine producing regions which we are going to study about all those regions and everything. Um, of course, there are France having a lot of wine producing regions, but still, when you talk about all other regions, among all other regions, these six regions are very famous. So let us talk about Bordeaux. Bordeaux, you can see two banks, left bank and right bank. That it's a river called Gironde River. The river divides the Bordeaux region. One is left bank, another one is right bank. I'm repeating again. There's a Gironde River which passes through Bordeaux, and it divides the Bordeaux into two bank, left bank and another one is right bank. The wine regions of Bordeaux are large number of wine producing areas, and this is one of the main wine producing regions. And most importantly, Bordeaux is a red wine region. I'm repeating again, Bordeaux is primarily it is red wine region. And yes, of course, the Bordeaux producing white wines also, but 80% of the wines are red wines. I'm repeating again, 80% of the wines are red wines in Bordeaux, because the maybe the soil hot, it's maybe it's too hot when you comparing with other regions, and the soil helps to produce mostly red grapes than the white grapes. So these are the principal grape varieties. Red wine comes from Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. White wine comes from Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. These are the principal grape varieties. Don't, if you ask me, Bordeaux producing only these grapes, no, no, Bordeaux produces some other grapes also. But these are the principal grape varieties. Every region has own principal grape variety. I am already we discussed this in the class. I am drinking a wine of Bordeaux, and it is AOC wine. It is mentioned appellation Bordeaux Contrôlé. If it is red wine, then this wine have to be made by Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot, not from any other grapes. That is the success of AOC. Same if you're drinking white wine from Bordeaux region, it's mentioned appellation Bordeaux Contrôlé. So easily we can understand it comes from Bordeaux. So it must be made by Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. Why AOC became very famous than the other appellations? Because AOC reveals what grape is being used. If I am a wine drink, I am a wine consumer. When I'm drinking a wine, I am seeing this wine from appellation Bordeaux Contrôlé. So this wine from Bordeaux, so it's a red wine. I easily will understand I am drinking a wine of blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, because these are the only two principal grape varieties from Bordeaux region. Always Cabernet Sauvignon famous in left bank, Merlot famous in right bank. Please note that these are the very very important points. Cabernet Sauvignon famous in left bank and Merlot famous in right bank. Most of the 90% of the Bordeaux red wines will go blend of Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot grapes. Their wine will be made by Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot blend. What is the reason? Cabernet Sauvignon is very sharp, very harsh, and the grape, thick skin, not a thin skin, thick skin. So it will give a lot of harshness to the wine. But Merlot is the opposite category. It gives a lot of smoothness to the structure. So when it blends together, then the wine will be more smooth as well as it has little sharpness. So this is the success of the combination. Same when you talk about white wine Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc always goes blender. Bordeaux is the best example for blending of grapes. I'm repeating again. Bordeaux have two red grapes and two white grapes. This is the principal grape varieties of Bordeaux. Two red grapes and two white grapes. The two red grapes Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot and two white grapes Semillon Sauvignon Blanc. So when I talk about Bordeaux region, I already told you 89% of red wine varieties and 11% of white wine varieties. They are planting 89% red grapes and only 11% white grapes. So Bordeaux is basically it is red wine region. So I think this is for the day. We have started the wines of France. We have seen the history of France, and we started the regions of France. We studied, most importantly, we studied the appellations, the European wine categories. We studied about European wine categories. That's very, very important. And we started with Bordeaux. Then we'll continue next other regions in upcoming class. Okay, guys, keep continuing the classes, keep attending the classes, don't miss the classes. These are the very important class. So luckily I got a time now to teach you. So keep attending the classes and take a notes, and keep take care and be in home, follow all the government advisories, and stay safe. Okay, we'll be in touch. We'll see tomorrow for the next upcoming regions. Okay, until then, bye bye guys, take care.